¿Qué pasa, amigos? You're listening to the Pinche Cast&Blast podcast. I'm your host, Pinche Ben. Join me and entertaining guests as we share some wins, some fails, and a whole lot of laughs as we dare to admit embarrassing mistakes we've made learning how to fish and hunt. We're glad you're joining us, and no matter what your background or what your skill level, everyone is welcome here. What's up, everybody? It's Pinche Ben with another episode of the Pinche Cast&Blast podcast with my co-host, Jimmy.
What's up?
Man, we're here just recapping last podcast where we were talking about our love for the outdoors and basically why we're doing it, right? And you got to know a little bit more about what we do as far as it's not just chasing trophies. We're chasing experiences. We're out there with a deep love and passion for the outdoors. And we talked about that on our last podcast, so we hope you guys enjoyed that. And then we ended almost diving into a conversation about our personal bests, and we decided that this podcast would be just about that, our personal bests. And, you know, that's a good topic of discussion because chasing a PB or trying to beat a PB, right? It's your personal best. It's not trying to compete with others. It's just competing with yourself. And do you feel like sometimes you get out there and you're fishing or hunting, and I could care less about trying to compete with everyone around me and what they got going on or their trophies and their, wall mounts. I'm just trying to, maybe outdo my last experience. How's that work for you?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. It's one of those. It's a hope and a prayer every time that you go out that you're like, hey, I want to beat my last PB.
Yeah.
That's something that you always strive for.
Right.
In the last episode we talked about like being immersed in that moment.
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, you always want to go out and you want to beat your last experience and things like that. And one of the top prizes to yourself is to beat your last PB personal best. So yeah, every time we go out, that's kind of one of the idea of going.
Yeah, man. And I could get into my personal best, or I can get into your personal best. Before we do that, why don't we give a shout out to our sponsors?
Yeah, I'm digging our sponsors. I'm a fan.
You saw us introduced last time. We got sponsored by 5x5 Brewing Company out of Mission, Texas. We're gonna drop some pics of these beer. Again, we have the Brunette Bombshell. I'm gonna try that one today, and you have the
Fubar.
The Fubar. Nice.
Red ale.
So that is a red ale. This is a brown ale, and let's give them a shot, man.
Yeah. I'm excited to try this one.
Yeah, so we...
the Bombshell I tried last was great.
We tried them last time. Cheers.
All right, cheers. Another winner chicken dinner.
This one's good too, bro.
Yeah.
Man, so I'm torn between these. What do you think?
That one's a stronger beer, right?
It's a stronger beer, but the flavors for both of them
the flavor's great, yeah. I mean, when it comes down to it, the flavor's amazing. It's good.
I love the art on these, man. I'm going to have to talk to these guys about who's doing these. This is kind of like a pin-up of a Brunette Bombshell on some kind of like old bomber style.
Yeah, it looks like a what do they call the small nukes? What do they call them back in the Fat Boys?
Fat Boys, like that. Something like that. Yeah, so it's pretty cool, man. And the Fubar, of course, is just the old school camo. Everyone knows what Fubar is, and fucked up beyond all recognition.
That's what it is.
So if you didn't know, you know now. And again, this is an uncensored, not your so church-friendly podcast. So we're just going to keep it real and keep it what it is. For all the veterans out there, we've said worse. And for all those that are not veterans and haven't been around or exposed to that kind of vulgarity, you're in store for a lot being around a bunch of dysfunctional veterans.
Sometimes it is what it is, but I'll tell you what, you have a few of the Bombshells and some Fubars, and you'll be a little Fubar yourself.
Yeah, man. So it's been good having these. These are going down good. So Jimmy, man, we talked about we almost spilled it at the end of the last podcast. What your PB is. I'll go ahead and share mine because I guess it comes with a little bit of a story with a friend of mine that I was fishing that day, and I hope he's watching and he's gonna enjoy this story too. So
I'm excited to hear this. I don't know the story, so
all right,
yeah, I'm ready to sit back and listen.
Nothing crazy extravagant, but I remember when you land your PB, right? You remember all the details.
I remember to the smell.
Okay, so then you can relate to this. So we were out, excuse me, we were out kayak fishing on Fort Hood. I guess I could say that, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, tell us not to, right? So for anyone that isn't familiar with this area, you can get access passes to Fort Hood, and you can legally hunt and fish on the premise. There's some passes you got to pay for, some access passes and all that stuff, but that'll allow you access to all the ponds all over the training areas, and all the training areas are secluded. And they got a great app that you can check in and this and that.
Not to mention Belton Lake. Half of Belton Lake is actually on Fort Hood.
Right. So geographically speaking, Fort Hood, the training area, if you were to overlay it on a map of Texas and superimpose it over San Antonio, the training area alone is bigger than San Antonio. So to give you a perspective of how big Fort Hood is, if you haven't been around it, Fort Hood is in the Central Texas area, right in the heart of Texas, really.
It is. I want to say it's somewhere training area, just training, not living and, and garrison
just
areas.
The training area.
I want to say it's somewhere around the 115 to 130,000 acre range. Massive.
Which is actually the crazy thing about it. It's actually leased, and it's actually leased to some like rancher or some owner that has cattle roaming all over the place.
All over.
And you better not do anything to the cattle, because you'll pay for 3 generations or something of cattle. So, but that's just how it is when you're hunting on land that is being leased and all that stuff. So, I just wanted to share that, to give you, I guess, why I was hunting, or I'm sorry, in this case, fishing on Fort Hood. So I had an access pass, and a buddy of mine, we decided we were going to go hit up a couple of lakes on Fort Hood, and we were kind of hopping around, and we decided to go to this one particular lake, and he was out paddling out in front of me. So it's kind of like the guy on the nose of the boat, and you're on the tail. Everywhere he's casting and you're trolling, he's kind of getting the first.
Oh, you're casting behind him.
Yeah, I'm casting behind him. So he was out in front of me, and we were looking out to where we were going to paddle out to, and we both kind of looked, and there was this area, man, where you got some good timber coming out. It just looked like a sweet spot, man. We were like, man, that's going to be the spot, right? So we paddle out directly out there. Of course, we're kind of fan casting out as we're going, and the sun was actually casting a shadow behind us. So we were the perfect trajectory towards where we were going to fish, So since we're casting shadows behind us, we're fishing forward, and we're just kind of hitting those banks as long as we go. So my buddy Travis is out there hitting the banks, and I'm just kind of looking where he's casting. I'm just like seeing.
Was it spring or summer?
It was actually April.
April.
It was April 17th. I remember the date.
Yeah.
I remember the date because I got the scar from the fishing line on my hand when I hooked set the hook. So I remember he was casting out, and we both were throwing something different. We both are casting out just whatever plastics we have. We're fishing artificials, right? And we're chasing bass. And earlier that day, he had got a couple of crappie and all this stuff, and a small bass, and we just decided to go to this other lake. So we get down there, and I see where he's casting, and he's hitting all the spots, man. Where are we getting hit? Right at the bottom of that tree that's coming out of the water. I'm going to try to hit those spots, see if something's, down in the bottom. You look for transitions, you look for stumps, you look for, maybe an overhang of a tree, so we're casting all over that, and I'm watching him. So I'm kind of hitting this, areas, kind of doing my cadence, trying to get in my zone. And I finally get to this spot that I had been eyeing, and he had already kind of went deeper into like this the end of this like lake where it starts getting real skinny water,
So as you're coming up to it, or since you're casting behind him, are you hoping like, please don't cast over there, please don't cast over there?
Secretly, yeah, but I'm not admitting it, but yeah. So like I'm kind of like, nah, man, leave this spot alone. So I had saw this area where like this tree overhang was perfectly over the bank, and it was casting these shadows. So I felt like those were going to be some cold pockets under the water there, and it was kind of cold that day, actually. April out here, sometimes we get snow in that time frame.
What it's either 100 or
Yeah,
you're getting snow.
could
You
be
don't know
anything.
which one.
So I mean, that day was cold. I remember specifically we were wearing jackets and um, we're hitting that spot up, or we get closer to the spot. So long story short, I hit the spot that I wanted to, and I caught about a 3 pound bass. So it was a good little fight.
That's a good way to start a day.
Yeah, so I was like, boom, got it. And every time you're on kayak, so you're like, arm distance away from each other, so to speak. But we're a good distance away, but you can hear everything. So he hears me like, oh, got one. So we're sitting there, and I'm angling this thing in, and I bring it over to the side of my boat and lip it, pull it out. It's like nice one, good 3 pounder. I don't know, 17 inches maybe. So I was just like, all right, here you go. So he's like, all right, that's good. What are you catching it on, right? So on a kayak, man, as you reel in, you only got like so much distance between your rod and your lure, or if you're
there's some talent that's involved,
or landing a fish. You got to kind of angle your stuff right. So he by this time he's already paddled up to me, and he's just like, what are you fishing it on, or what are you throwing, right? So I pull out my lure, and I had this this red crawl, like a little crawfish style, and he reached for my bait, and he's like since I hit one on there, he's like, man, I'm fishing this now, right? So
he took your bait?
Yeah, he took my bait off my hook. So I was like, bro, I got more here, I was like, so he was just doing that like out of a joke, So he's like, oh, I got you now. So he hooks that up, and he's like, he's kind of getting pissed because it wasn't getting any bites right there. And it's just juicy, man. It just looks fishy where we're at, right? So he's like, I know they're in here. So I start throwing again. And sure enough, I cast it in this area where now he was literally sitting right there on top of it. And I deliberately cast it under his boat, like at the tree he was by.
So you're telling me you caught this fish under his boat? Or close to?
It was pretty close to. Yeah. I'll tell you, I casted where his boat was. Now he's moving further out. He's paddling out slowly, and I just felt this hit, bro. Boom! It just digs. And I swear I thought that thing had wrapped itself around a log or something, because when I set the hook,
didn't move.
That braid just cut through my finger, and I set the hook, and I just leaned back, and I'm like, oh, right. I just felt it, and I was like, man, my
feel
rod.
The kayak start spinning?
Yeah, my kayak's turning around. I'm just like this, and he was laughing at me because all he could hear was like, I think I was like, damn, bro, this one's big, bro. Damn, bro, this one's big. And he was just laughing because I was just like, oh, man, this one's heavy, bro. And I was just like, so he's like, yeah, it's bigger than the last one. I said, oh, it's way bigger than the last one. So I finally get it over to my boat. Now he's paddling back to me, like, going to help me land this fish,
He's just as excited as
you are. He's
like,
just as excited, right? So he's coming over, and he's like, he wants to net it for me, and I was like, yeah, bro, get the net, right? So I'm coming over, and I start bringing it, and I get it over to the side of my boat. Bro, when I pull this sucker over, I see that mouth, just a bucket mouth, man. I just grab it, and I keep it in the water, and he's just like, what'd you get? I was like, oh, nothing, and I just pull this guy out, right? I was like, boom, So my PB was that day. It wasn't a lunker. I didn't beat the 10-pounder. It was
no double digits?
No double digits. So the story is anticlimactic, but it's my PB, and again, it's kind of tying to, hey, your PB is your PB. It was a 7.8 pound post spawn, 23-inch bass. So
that's nothing to
tell that. I could tell you this: I was about 100 pounds heavier at that time, and I dwarfed this fish.
Yeah,
because I was just like, boom, just put this fish. And I'll probably share pictures, maybe on our Facebook page or something, man, and let people share their personal pics.
That's a good point. Yeah, let's
do that, right? Post it on the Facebook.
Let's do that.
Since you can't leave pic comments on YouTube, we'll post the pics of. You got a pic of your?
I do, yeah.
Sweet. So I'll post a pic of my PB when we put this video on YouTube. How about that?
Cool thing.
On Facebook.
Yeah. So we'll post the pictures on Facebook, and then cool thing. It's going to be 2 different species. So whatever your PB is, if you want to share them on Facebook, when it goes up on Facebook, do that. It don't matter
if you're watching on YouTube. Drop your comment and let us know what your PB is, what the species is. maybe what area you got it. You don't have to be specific and give away your honey holes, but tell us what area you're watching from and tell us where area you caught it, because your PB might not be where you're watching from. So, like I said, it's a 7.8, almost 8 pound bass.
We're gonna call it 8, man.
I like that. I appreciate that. So I'm gonna take that.
We'll call it 8.
Cause I ain't gonna lie to you, I've been calling it 8 ever since
We'll call it 8. I'm with you.
So yeah, man. So I caught an 8 pound bass. No. So yeah, it was 7.8 on my scale. 23 inches. Post spawn. So it definitely had potential to be a lot bigger, right? Man, it was just a pretty fish, man. So we got it, took a couple pics, catch, CPR, photo release, and let it go. And hopefully there's been a bunch of anglers that have gone behind me and maybe...
Hopefully they seen that scar in that fish's mouth.
Maybe they see that scar, and hopefully by the time they got it, it was like much fatter. So,
but hopefully they CPR too.
Oh yeah. So that's just my preference, man. I'm not gonna bash those that don't. But me personally, I'm CPR only. Now saltwater is a different story, but freshwater fish, especially bass, catch, photo, release. I let them go. I'm not bringing any home at all, or doing all that. So
that's where we differ, my friend.
Yeah. So speaking of differ, you, if I'm not mistaken, have caught a different species in a personal best that's actually possibly a lake record.
So yeah, actually it is an unofficial state lake record.
You don't have to give away the specifics. I gave away the specifics because my particular I knew my particular bass wasn't going to be like the biggest one, or people would be challenging me. Ain't nobody gonna challenge my bass. It's my PB. It is what it is.
So you know what? I don't mind. I don't mind giving away. And I say I don't mind giving away. I used to catch. So my PB is it's a blue catfish.
Okay.
And
so this thing had to be pretty big.
It was pretty big. I got real heavy into catfishing in Kansas, right on Milford Lake, and I found a lot of success bank fishing and catching big catfish where other folks in boats weren't catching as many fish or as big as fish as I was. And I started sharing my spots, and I put some hours and hours and miles into finding these spots bank fishing. I started sharing them with people. I started taking people. Next thing you know, I mean, it's a congregation. I couldn't even go out there and fish my own spots anymore. So I'm probably about to do that again, which is fine. It's fine. But when I say when I'm about to do this, you were talking about fishing Fort Hood. This was also on Fort Hood, but it was on the lake. It was on Belton Lake. It was on Belton Lake. And there's an area out there called Taylor Branch. So it's a creek that runs in. So for those of you that are familiar with the area, if you see Taylor Branch, that's where the story took place. And there's plenty of other spots. It doesn't mean this particular fish will still be there, but we'll see how it goes. So
this thing had to be big, bro.
Yeah, it was big. For me, it was big. Are there bigger fish out there? Yes, there are. But are there bigger fish in this particular lake? Well, this was the biggest one that's been caught that's on record, and this one isn't on record. And I could have put it on record, but I didn't feel the need to, and I have the proof to do it, but just didn't need to. So it was on May 5th of...
I was told that mine was potentially could be one of Fort Hood's biggest bass.
Yeah, could have
been. The guys
been.
at the Sportsman told me, like, do you have pics of it? We can take reference points from your pics. Like, basically, if you lipped it, they can take your measurement here, and they do something where they take some kind of, like, reference point.
Yeah, so I think they can take, they can take, like, a known measurement.
Yeah.
An object of a known measurement and place it with the fish, and they can do some nerd math stuff and figure it out,
In your case, you have more in-depth proof of how big your fish was.
I got measurements of girth and length, and then of species, and then they have the science behind of whatever that species is with that girth and that length of knowing what that weight was, and scale. I couldn't get a picture of the scale because in the story I'm by myself. Yeah. I'm by myself, so I can't hold up this fish and take a picture at the same time. But I do got a cool picture of it on my tailgate.
It looked way bigger in my buddy's hands than it looked in mine.
Yeah. The picture, the good picture that I have of this fish is sitting on my tailgate of a 3/4 ton Chevy truck, and it takes up the entire tailgate.
Yeah, wow. Whoa, that gives us an idea how big it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's crazy what I caught it on too. So this was on May 5th of 20, what is this, 2021.
Okay.
May 5th, 2022. May 5th, 2022. Um, it was like I said, a blue catfish, and I've been scoping this night to go fish the whole time because
This is night fishing?
It was at night, so
Okay, sweet.
it was caught at 11:02 at night.
God, I gotta do that with you, man.
Yeah, 11:02 at night. And the bad thing is my fishing buddy's my son, and that dude when it goes to catfishing. He's 14 now. He knows more about catfishing than most grown men do.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
So he's so spoiled. If he doesn't catch a 20-pound fish or bigger, it was a horrible trip for him.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
Yeah. So, anyways, this night I was alone because my family decided to go up to Kansas to visit some friends and talk. Some visits that were going on up there. So I said I've been waiting on this particular day. I'm staying home and fishing. I'm not going. So I left the house early that day. I always go catch my own bait. I wouldn't call my bait. I got everything set up. I got 6, 7 rods set up.
What were you using for bait?
I was using.
Can you disclose that?
Yeah, I will. So I use shad and I use bluegill or perch, whichever way. And I present them in a different way. I use live, I'll use heads, and I use fillets of both shad and perch.
Yeah, cut bait.
Cut bait, yeah. So, and live bait. See which one, what are the fish preferring right now?
Right.
And in this case.
Now, do catfish like stinkier bait? Like, do they go after more bloodier bait, like cut bait?
So here,
Does it matter, right? I mean,
it does matter. For me, my experience only. So it depends on the species. If you're catching flatheads, or they call them yellow cats here, blue cats, channel cats, whichever one you're fishing. In my experience, it depends on time of year. It depends on the water temps, which is based off that time of year. But the live bait, more prevalent for flatheads, but blue cats. And actually, I caught this particular fish on a live bait too, a live bluegill. So yeah, there's a lot of variable, and I like to give them, smorgasbord.
And do you have a method of feeding your hook through live bait?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, and we can do a whole video about that.
Yeah,
we need to get out on a lake and we'll do some fishing. We'll talk about different rigs.
Let's make some content out on the lake, showing how we do our rigs, showing how we do our setups. And for some people, it'll be like, yeah, I've been doing that for years. And some people have never fished it that way, and it could be valuable to them. So hope that they get something out of it.
Yeah, it would be cool because I mean, everything that I've learned, I didn't come up with. There's some things that I came up with personally, but most of it I learned from others.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be cool. But this night, I think May 5th, 11:02. So I got out there. I went and caught bait. I got out there right as dark was going down. So in May, it's not getting dark until around like 8:30 or so.
Right.
So I'm talking to the families. They're driving up to Kansas. I'm out fishing, and I'm catching a few good fish, 10, 15 pound range or whatever. And then I think I had 6 rods out, 6 big catfish rods, and then I have like my little versatile rod. It was a 3000 series Mitchell bell reel.
Good.
On a GX2 rod.
Okay.
So just like a cheap kind of bass. Actually, it's my bait rod. That's what I usually catch my bait on. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna throw a small live bluegill on this. I'm just gonna chunk it out. So I'm fishing a mud flat, and I knew that I had a strong south wind. So I picked this side of the lake to fish on. And what that south wind does, plankton in the water, it gets the plankton. South wind gets the plankton. It pushes it up onto the beach, and it gets them going. And then the shad come in and feed on that, and the catfish come in and feed on the shad. So I got shad and bluegill out there as bait. So at about 11:02, I was actually on the phone with my wife checking on them, driving up to Kansas to see how they're doing. And I see this small GX2 just literally bend all the way over and like touch the ground. And that little reel was just screaming.
Yeah.
So I had 20-pound braid on this thing. So I run over there. I just dropped my phone. I just dropped it, and I just run over and I grabbed this reel. And I got the drag set pretty tight because it's a small reel, and I'm like, I only got 20-pound braid, so I'm not going to get it all the way down, but this reel is screaming. And I start fighting this fish, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a real the real deal, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
No pun intended.
I've caught 30, 40, 50-pound fish, blue cats, you know, catfish, and I could tell that this fish was something different.
You're already giving me an idea of how big it is.
Yeah, I was like, what am I doing catching this fish on this rod? Because I got my rods fanned out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why did you have to pick it on this one? Why
Knowing
did
you're
you have
probably
to
going
get
to
this
break
one?
off.
Yeah, I was scared to death.
Yeah.
So the only good thing I knew, if I could tire this fish out, it's okay because I'm fishing a mud flat. I knew that there wasn't no debris or anything out there. So I just keep fighting this fish. So it probably went on for about 20 to 25 minutes. Now I start getting the fish up to the bank. It's shallow water, so up to the bank. I didn't bring my net with me. My net's probably, I don't know, 50 feet behind me.
You're on the bank right now, so
and
you can't go get it. Yeah.
I can't go get it. So I'm trying to finesse some line out back far enough to
Yeah,
get
so
my
you
net.
get to there.
Right? So I got to keep the tension on. So I'm backing up, trying to fight this fish. And I finally get back far enough to get my net. And so I finally get my net. And at first I wasn't worried about the net. I was like, I'm just going to run out there and grab this fish. And I was like, this fish is too big. I can't, you know, like I don't want to put my hand in its mouth and then it, you know, it jerk and get away. So I grabbed the net, and I have a pretty good sized net. And I was like, shit, I need a bigger net, right? So I'm trying, a bigger net. Yeah, I'm trying to hold this little GX2 rod up with this fish, get it in this net. So finally, I throw the rod in the lake after I just scoop this fish in there. I'm fighting it in there, and I take my hand and I just push the fish into the net. So I pull it up, and I see this fish, and I just automatically go to fist pumping. Yeah, you know, I'm by myself.
You're by yourself, dude.
I'm by myself.
Yeah, you were just having the time of your life.
Time of life. Yes, and I'm fist pumping like,
yes,
yeah,
I love
I got it. You know, so I go.
I can just picture you just screaming. Yes,
I was 100%. And the crazy thing is I threw my phone down. Right?
Oh no!
So my wife's still on the. She doesn't know what's going on. She's like, "Oh shit, what's happening?" She just hears me yelling or whatever, right? So I finally I pull the fish up. I see that. Hey, that's a PB. That's my new PB. I know it is at that point.
Right.
So I go to my bag. I have a tape, you know, flexible tape, and I have a scale in there, a 50-pound, 0 to 50-pound scale. So I put that fish on it. It goes past that 50, and it just keeps going. And I was like, oh my Lord. Okay, my PB at the time was 52 pounds.
Okay.
So I go through, I get a different scale. I call somebody, I get a different scale. I weigh the fish, and it's 65.4 pounds. I measure the fish, and I have the measurements in my phone. I want to say it was like 36 and 3/8 girth and something.
Good night.
Yeah, it was so fat. Like when I'll be happy to post this picture because you know people.
So
say,
you're gonna post it on the video.
I will post it on there.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll post these pictures of our PBs on our video that we post on Facebook.
Yeah.
And you guys
it'll be fun.
can share yours as well.
So that was my experience, and when me and my family left Kansas, we got 2 lakes here close. I told my son at that point, I said, within 1 year of us being there, I'm going to beat a lake record, and
you did.
I did it. It's unofficial, but I do.
What is the weight?
65.4 pounds.
65.4 pounds.
Yeah, 65.4 is what it
Bro, you
ended
should
up
have
being.
told your story first. I would have never shared mine.
60. So there's much larger out there. I get it. You know, some of the people watching this. But I tell you what, if you catch a 65.4 pound catfish on a small GX2 and a 3000 series Mitchell with 20-pound braid, that's a hell of a time.
That's the story to tell right there, man.
It's fun.
Did you post any pictures of that, like, and share that or anything like that? Because, you know, I posted a few pics of. I post a pic of mine. I think at that time I had a GoPro, and they came with the like a video editing software that you can kind of like mash up a video, and I used that GoPro to make a video, and I posted it, and I didn't get it must have been not that impressive. I didn't get that much you know, feedback or anything, you know. But besides my buddy that was with me that day, you know, he was pretty stoked for me. You know, he saw how excited I was, so he was happy for me.
Right.
But yeah, so like, you know, that posting pics or whatever, you know, that kind of, you know, it kind of seals the deal. Like, I did this, right?
I did post some pics. Well, I say I post some pics. I posted on one platform very popular fishing platform. I'm not gonna name it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was immediately, the immediate responses were congrats,
Of
congrats,
course, yeah.
and
It's a big deal.
I woke up the next day, looked at it. I'm super proud of it, personal best, super proud of it.
That's
So
a
I'm
big
like,
fish.
let me see what's on here, and then you start getting so much negativity about it. Like, oh, a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again. Sun shines on a dog's ass
That's
every now.
somebody who's never caught a freaking 65-pound.
Yeah, and I've caught a lot of big fish, but that was just my personal best, the biggest one that I've caught. But I don't mind those, right? So
You know what, man?
It's the hate that you get on social media.
There's a trade-off there. You're sharing your personal best, or you're sharing an experience, and that's kind of weird how we get that kind of mix. Like, you get your congrats. That should be the first thing we share.
Should be.
I feel like that, man. I mean, how do you guys feel when you're scrolling through a group or a thread or a chat or whatever, and somebody's sharing their stuff? I mean, my first natural instinct is to be, I don't care what size, how many, what it is. Like, congrats, bro.
If they're proud of it, I'm proud for them.
That's how I feel. You know what I mean? And we talked about that too. It's your tag. It's your thing. You do whatever you want with it. Again, like I told you, like I CPR. That's not, if you don't, like, cool, man, good for you. Take it home, eat it.
I put me in the freezer sometimes.
Exactly. If you're feeding your family with it, go for it. And that, in your case, I got a question for you. Did you eat that?
No.
It's too big, right?
So I normally don't keep a fish over 10 pounds.
Okay, so because it just gets more gamey, I guess.
I don't think it does. Genetics. It's a genetic thing, right?
Yeah, us down in the coast with anything like big uglies and stuff, they have worms or they more tendency to have them. So
I don't personally think they taste any difference to me.
But I've heard people too say that.
I want to put
big
the
ones
genetics back in the water.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man. You're talking about getting hate on social media. It almost it discourages you from posting your pics. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I know you and I have talked about it. Like, we don't share all our hunts. We don't share all our pics, like fishing, hunting. We don't share them all. And it isn't because we're afraid to get the hate or anything like that. It's just like, I don't feel, you and I, we agreed, we don't feel the need to share all of it, right? Sometimes we lose focus of being caught in the moment.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just want to be in that moment. But do you feel like that has changed, like how we share our experiences? Like, back in the day, you used to just congratulate everyone first thing, but now it's real easy to just share some shade.
Yeah, it's that. Well, like we talked about, it's that instant gratification or that instant hate. But yeah, it shies a lot of people away.
Maybe a good way of maybe that's a good conversation to have on another podcast, is like how social media has changed how we fish and hunt, or maybe just the impact of social media on
the impact of what it does for the entire community,
right? Because
that's a topic that you can go really deep in.
Well, why don't we do that, man? Let's make that a topic we dive into and make that a podcast, man.
Talk about
the impact of social media and how it's
changed fishing and hunting and people's ideas and perspectives.
I think we can expound upon that. What do you think?
Yeah, I got plenty to say.
Then let's do it, man. I'm with you, man. So, hey guys, we're gonna cut here, man. I think we got a good segue into our next podcast, which I think we just agreed it's gonna be the impact of social media on fishing and hunting. I think that's going to be a good topic, man.
Yeah, I think so.
I know I have a couple of positives and negatives. We can
pros and cons to everything.
We'll cover them both, because we're definitely not going to be bashing anything without having a safe argument the other way. So, hey, if you're watching this podcast and you have some input to how you think social media has impacted fishing and hunting, leave us a comment. We'll bring them up in our next podcast. But Man, Jimmy, it's been a pleasure. Man, we had some good cold ones here today.
If you get a chance, check out 5x5. They really do have a great beer.
Man, I'm sold on these 2 flavors so far. I'm excited to see what they send us next, to see what we can try out. Again, I'm gonna drop a link in the description so that you guys can check them out. They got some cool stuff. If you go to their website, they got I forget what it's called. Is it growler?
Growler.
A growler.
Yeah, growler.
They got a cool growler where you can order the beer flavor of your choice, and they got a ton to choose from. Man, they got some really cool craft beer that they're experimenting with, and their batches seasonal. Some are constant, you know what I mean? But they have some seasonal that they play with. And then they got it cool for you veterans out there. I think this would be pretty cool. They actually have like a canteen cup.
That's cool.
With the 5x5 brewing company logo on it. So and they do some cool things when you buy their growler and a canteen cup. They have some promos that go along with it. So go check out their website. Again, that's 5x5 Brewing Company out of Mission, Texas. Go check them out. Jimmy, it was a good time we had today, man. We talked about, our PBs, and those that was a great story. That's just our personal best, man. That's nothing we're claiming to be the best, but it was a good opportunity to share just, something that's part of our journey, and we're still chasing to beat those.
Yeah, we still want to beat them. We're definitely not professionals.
That's right, so by no means am I claiming to be the Lunker King. I haven't even reached that status yet, so I'm what you call a Lunker Chaser. And maybe one day we'll get into talking about different species and what other PBs we have. And
I'm curious to hear your saltwater stories.
Yeah, man, so those have definitely been much bigger fish, and some of them have made it. I've broken off a lot more. I mean, right there, like that's the stories we want to get into.
That's the one that hits right here.
Yeah, the one that so got hard. Away, man. Yeah. When you got it right here, so we'll get into that another day.
Yeah,
but
I want to hear those.
We'll wrap up, man. If you like what you saw today, man, give us a subscribe and share our content with others, man, that might like our podcast and may like to talk about Cast&Blast and the hunting and fishing experiences. Stay tuned for our next podcast, because I think we got a solid topic of discussion.
That's gonna be a good one.
So our next podcast will be about the impact of social media on fishing and hunting. How about that?
Yeah.
All right, man.
Great.
Let's do that. Hey, we're gonna sign out. You got Jimmy and Ben here sitting on the couch with you on another episode of the Pinche Cast&Blast podcast.
Take it easy and be recognized.
Hey amigos, if you enjoyed this podcast, I invite you to subscribe so that you can be notified when we post new content. And if you feel like leaving a comment, rating, or review, please do so for this podcast and share with your friends. Thanks for listening, and I hope you had as much fun as we did. Now get out there and enjoy the Cast&Blast lifestyle, or as we say here, puro pinche Cast&Blast.